Today is the 19th of October 2025. The day before yesterday, I spoke about how the five hindrances can prevent the rising of wisdom or halt it, and how they can weaken and dull wisdom if it has already arisen. I also explain how we can deal with these hindrances, how we can prevent them, and how we can cure or overcome them. At the end of the talk, I spoke about how crucial it is to eliminate the hindrances, especially in order to give rise to and deepen wisdom. If a meditator continuously and consistently cultivates initial application, sustained application, mindfulness and concentration, without allowing the mind to be halted or interrupted by the hindrances, then vision becomes clear and insight unfolds. In this way, concentration, which eliminates defilements, moment to moment and from object to object, gains momentum and gives rise to wisdom. Because concentration is the proximate cause of wisdom, when it gains momentum and deepens, becoming stronger, it allows wisdom to arise. There is also a Pali statement, samahito yatha bhutang pajanati, which means the concentrated mind comprehends reality as it truly is. When the mind is well collected and free from distractions, that is when the five hindrances are suppressed, it becomes sharp, stable and clear, allowing wisdom to arise. And when insight unfolds, that insight itself is the second manifestation of samadhi. The second manifestation of samadhi. This means that when a meditator begins to see and comprehend things as they truly are, they come to understand, oh, this is because of the presence of concentration. Now let us reflect on the nature of wisdom. Wisdom has the characteristic of illumination, It has the characteristics of illumination. It sheds light on what was previously hidden or obscured by ignorance. Just as a man entering a dark house brings in a lamp, once the lamp is placed, it dispels the darkness, produces light, illuminates the surroundings, and makes visible all the forms that were unseen in the darkness. In exactly the same way, when wisdom arises in the mind, it dispels the darkness of ignorance. It brings forth the light of true knowledge, illuminates the reality of things as they truly are, and reveals the whole Four Noble Truths, which are otherwise hidden to the ordinary or deluded mind. This is why it is said in the Pali Canon, wisdom is said to have the characteristics of illumination. So just as the lamp reveals forms in the physical world, wisdom reveals Dhamma realities such as impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. It enables the mind to see clearly, not with the eyes of the body, but with the of with the eye of the insight. Another important characteristic of wisdom is penetrative realization of things as they truly are. Wisdom doesn't merely skim the surface. It penetrates deeply into the true nature of reality. It sees beyond appearance, beyond assumption, and beyond conceptual thinking. It directly perceives the fundamental characteristics of existence: impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self. Just as a sharp spear pierces through a veil or a surgeon scalpel, cuts through to reach the root of a disease. Wisdom cuts through delusion to expose what is real. It penetrates the layers of conditioning, and ignorance that obscure the truth. So when this kind of insight arises, the meditator begins to see reality clearly and directly. For example, imagine you are looking at a line of ends from a distance. At first glance, it may appear to be just as a static line, a solid object, or even a non-living thing. But as you step a little closer, you begin to notice, sense some movement. Although you are still unsure what exactly you are seeing, as that slight movement becomes more noticeable, the initial wrong perception of a lifeless, unchanging line starts to fade. Then, as you move even closer, you begin to recognize that it's a line of ants marching. Now you are certain that it's not an inanimate object or some other kind of creature, but ants. You continue moving closer, and now you can see that ants are ants as individual beings, each one distinct. At this point, even the wrong view of continuity, the illusion of a single continuous thing, subsides. In the same way, at the beginning, one may hold wrong views about physicality and mentality, seeing them as I, he, she, man, woman, or perceiving them as permanent, pleasant, or as a self. Even in the early stages of meditation practice, meditators often perceive only conceptual objects, such as the nose, abdomen, leg, hand, or body as a whole. These are recognized based on general shape, location, or conventional labels. At times, meditators may observe the form, pattern, or appearance of bodily objects rather than their true nature. For example, the rising and falling of the abdomen may be seen as a balloon, a ball, or a hollow object. These perceptions are still rooted in concept and image, not direct insight into reality. Likewise, when observing movement, various of motion, various of motion may appear, such as twisting, rolling, long or short movement, or motion in vertical, horizontal, or diagonal directions. These are initial steps towards seeing the true characteristics of physicality, but they may still be interpreted through a conceptual lens. As meditators continue progressing in their practice, they begin to directly observe realities, both physical and mental. They come to understand that the body is not a solid or unified thing, but a composition of the physical phenomena, or let's say 28 types of physical phenomena. Among these, the four great elements are primary. These are the first earth element. In Pali, we call Pathavi Dhatu. The second water element, Apo Dhatu. The third fire element, Tejo Dhatu. And the fourth air element, Vayu Dhatu. These elements do not appear as literal earth, water, fire, or air. Instead, they are known through they are known through their natural qualities, their individual characteristics. For example, the earth element is experienced through hardness, softness, roughness, or smoothness. These qualities are unique to the earth element, are not found in the other three elements. The water element does not have hardness or softness. The air element also lacks those qualities. Therefore, hardness, softness, roughness, or smoothness are individual characteristics specific to the earth element, and this is why they are called personal or individual characteristics. In Pali, we call Sabhava Lakhana. Similarly, the water element has the characteristics of cohesion, fluidity, or flowing. It is what allows material phenomena to hold together, giving a sense of continuity over smoothness. Although the water element is not directly experienced like the other, its functions can be experienced through the sensation of binding or joining. I repeat this one. The water element is not directly experienced like the others. Its function can be experienced through the sensations of binding or joining. The another element is element of temperature. It has the characteristics of heat, cold, or warmth. It is responsible for temperature and maturation. This element governs how material phenomena age or decay, and it is directly experienced as the varying degrees of warmth or coolness in the body. The air element is experienced through tension, tightness, tautness, stiffness, or movement. It is the element that drives motion and pressure within the body. For example, sensation like rising, falling, or stretching, pressing, or vibrating are experiences of the air element. Similarly, mentality, nama, has its own unique nature. It can be divided into two main categories: mind and mental factors, which we have already discussed in detail. The mind has the general nature of knowing or taking the object. It is the central moment of consciousness that always arises with accompanying mental factors. The mental factors, which are 52 in number, each have their own distinct nature. For example, greed has characteristic of attachment or clinging. Whether it arises in the mind of the human or in the mind of any other beings, whether in the mind of an ant or an elephant, whether in the mind of an ordinary person, or even in the mind of a non-returner, Nagami. It doesn't change. It doesn't change its nature. That is why it is considered as ultimate reality. Its characteristics is fixed, unchanging, and can be directly known through insight. And this clinging nature is not found in other mental factors. Anger does not have the nature of clinging. It has the nature of aggression or ferocity. Delusion also does not cling. It has the nature of ignorance or confusion. Only greed possesses this attaching quality, which makes it the individual or personal characteristic of greed. Similarly, loving kindness, metta, has the nature of wishing for others' welfare and prosperity, a quality that is unique to metta, not sure by not sure by other mental factors. Just as in the case of physicality, each mental factor has its own personal, individual nature. So recognizing these distinct characteristics is essential in the development of insight into mental realities. Meditators should make a sincere effort to explore the individual characteristics of body, both physicality and mentality. This is essential as it forms the foundation or starting point for realizing deeper characteristics such as impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, or and non-self. And without first knowing these basic characteristics, one cannot truly understand the deeper nature of physicality and physical and mental phenomena. That is why during interviews, teachers often ask meditators again and again whether they have directly experienced these characteristics. We continue to encourage and guide them until they begin to clearly see and recognize these natural qualities in their own experiences. From the meditator's side as well, it's important to share these experiences with their teacher. For example, when you observe the rising and falling of the abdomen, what exactly did you experience? Like, did you notice hardness, softness, tension, tightness, pressure, or pushing, stretching, or warmth? And what about the next rising and falling? Did the qualities change? Was there a difference in sensation? Likewise, when noting walking meditation, what did you experience in the lifting? Was there heaviness or lightness? In the moving forward, did you feel warmth, coolness, or a pulling, pushing sensation? In the dropping, was there again a sense of heaviness or lightness? But by clearly identifying and reporting these individual characteristics, meditators deepen their insight into ultimate realities and build the proper foundation. They build a proper foundation for unfolding of higher wisdom. And the good news is you don't need to do anything special or complicated to explore these characteristics. You simply need to observe physical and mental phenomena as they arise or when they become clear and obvious in your experience. By consistently and mindfully observing their presence, the understanding to their individual characteristics will begin to arise naturally and gradually. Insight unfolds not through force or analysis, but through direct and continuous observation. Therefore, observe consistently and mindfully so that you can begin to notice the individual characteristics of physical and mental phenomena. As meditators continue progressing in their practice, they begin to witness the second level of characteristics, the conditional characteristic. Conditional characteristics, these are marked by three distinct moments within each experience. The first, arising or appearance. The second, short continuation or stability. And the third, passing away or disappearance. These three phases gradually become apparent within the observation of each individual characteristic. For example, while observing the rising and falling of the abdomen, a meditator may notice appearance of hardness, a brief continuation of hardness, and then its disappearance. Similarly, they may experience the appearance of warmth, its short stability, and then its passing away. The same can be seen during walking meditation while observing the movement of the feet. One might notice the arising of heaviness, its brief continuation, and then the disappearance of that heaviness. In this way, meditators begin to see not just what a phenomena is, but how it behaves, arising, remaining briefly, and then vanishing. This reveals the conditioned nature of all phenomena. Importantly, this understanding applies not only to the physical phenomena but also to mental phenomena. For example, the appearance of greed is short continuation and then its disappearance. The rising of a thought is brief presence and is fading away. The appearance of a memory is short continuation and its disappearance. However, prior to fully realizing this second level of characteristic, meditators may first notice the changes within the individual characteristics themselves, such as shifts in intensity, texture, temperature, or pressure. For example, the sensation of hardness might gradually become softer or more intense. Warmth might increase or fade. Tightness may fluctuate. These variations are the early signs of the mind beginning to discern the instability and conditioned nature of the phenomena. Such changing qualities are preliminary indications leading up to the clearer perception of the three phases: arising, brief continuation, and passing away. It shows the meditator is moving closer to realizing the conditional characteristics of physicality and mentality. Again, as meditators continue progressing in their practice, they begin to directly explore the third stage of characteristic recognition, the clear discerning of just the arising and disappearing of individual phenomena. At this stage, the brief continuation previously noticed becomes inapparent. The mind no longer lingers to the stability of experiences. Instead, it sees the rising and vanishing moment by moment. For example, the appearance of hardness immediately followed by its disappearance. The arising of warmth, then its vanishing. The appearance of tension, then its dissolution. Similarly, the rising of greed and its disappearance, the appearance of anger followed by its vanishing. Again, at the early stage of this level, meditators may notice the arising and disappearing of phenomena at a slower pace, and in fewer occurrences. However, as the practice matures, the process becomes progressively faster and the numbers of observed events or objects increases significantly. The mind becomes sharper, more precise, and more attuned to the momentary nature of experience, clearly seeing how physical and mental phenomena arise and vanish rapidly, one after another without pause. As meditators experience the rapid appearance and disappearance of physical and mental phenomena, the impermanent nature of all conditioned things becomes clearly apparent, predominant. This impermanence is seen not as a concept but as a direct experience, a continuous process of birth and death, moment by moment. As this insight deepens, the meditators begins to recognize that such a fleeting and unstable process cannot bring true satisfaction. True satisfaction, this leads to the realization of the truth of suffering, that all conditioned phenomena are ultimately unsatisfactory. Simultaneously, there is as there is lacking control or ownership over their uh, these constantly changing phenomena, the truth of selflessness becomes evident. There is no I behind the process, just a stream of cause and conditions arising and passing away. So these three characteristics, impermanence, that we call in Pali anicca, unsatisfactoriness, dukkha, and selflessness, anatta, are known as the common characteristics because they are shared by all physical and mental phenomena. They are also called the universal characteristics as they apply to all conditioned realities without exception. So in this way, meditators gradually come to witness the three level of characteristics, individual characteristic that we call in Pali Sabhava Lakhana, conditional characteristics, Sankhata Lakhana, and common or universal characteristic, Samanya Lakhana. I repeat, individual characteristics, Sabhava Lakhana, conditional characteristic, Sankhata Lakhana, common or universal characteristics, Samanya Lakhana. The common characteristics, impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and non-self, can only be directly experienced after the conditional characteristics have been clearly identified. And the conditional characteristics can only be understood after the individual characteristics have been directly experienced. Without experiencing the individual characteristic, the three moments, arising, brief continuation, and passing away, have no reference point, as these moments are not abstract, they occur in relation to individual characteristics themselves. Likewise, without the clear perception of these conditional phases, the universal characteristics will not become predominant. Each level of insight rests upon the clarity of the previous one, unfolding gradually through consistent mindful observation. And let me emphasize again, you don't need to do anything special to explore these characteristics. What's truly needed is simply to observe physical and mental phenomena at the moment they arise or when they become clear and obvious. That is the things truly needed to be done. And through consistent and mindful observation in the present moment, these characteristics, individual, conditional, and universal, will naturally reveal themselves step by step, layers by layer. This is what we call the penetrative realization of things as they truly are. Yatha Sabhava Pativeda Lakhana in Pali. And another way of describing this process, meditators begin by seeing physical as just as describing this process, meditators begin by seeing physicality as just physicality and mentality as just mentality, without confusing one for the other or mistaking either for a self. They begin to discern mind and matter clearly and separately. From there, they come to realize the cause and effect relationship between them. For example, how certain mental intention condition bodily movement, or how sensory contact conditions feeling and perception. This deepens into the realization of the appearance and the disappearance of both physical and mental phenomena, how they arise due to conditions and then pass away. The entire unfolding process is not a conceptual or theoretical, it is direct experiential knowledge. and it is the true nature of wisdom. Here we are talking about the nature of or characteristics of wisdom. So this is the true nature of wisdom. It sees reality clearly, precisely, and without distortion. It is the penetrative, faultless realization of things as they truly are. In some places, wisdom is also described as having the characteristic of non-faulty knowing. Non-faulty knowing, it is free from distortion, error, or misinterpretation. And this kind of knowing excludes any knowledge that is based merely on perception, inference, or second-hand understanding. Why? Because knowledge acquired through conceptual thoughts, imagination, or indirect personal experience can still be influenced by delusion, assumption, or projection. It may be useful in a conventional level, but is not reliable for liberation. So true wisdom is direct, experiential knowledge. It arises through clear observation of phenomena in the present moment. It sees the mental and physical process just as they are arising short, briefly, persisting briefly, and passing away without adding any conceptual labels such as I, mine, or self. Only this kind of direct insight is without faults and alone has the power to cut through ignorance and lead to liberation. And these faculties, penetrative wisdom, the nature, the faultless, penetrative wisdom, the direct realization of things as they truly are, ultimately leads to the realization of the Four Noble Truths. By seeing the true nature of physical and mental phenomena, their impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness, the meditators comes to understand the truth of suffering not as an idea but as a reality to be known and fully understood. So they see how the suffering arises through craving, how it can cease, and what leads to the cessation, the Noble Eightfold Path. So this is not merely knowing what the Four Noble Truths, but realizing them directly through wisdom, grounded in moment to moment observation. So true insight born from direct experience, accumulated in liberating knowledge, cutting through delusion and leading to freedom from suffering. That's why yogis should observe each presently arising object consistently and continuously. As meditators observe continuously and consistently, and they slowly begin to develop knowledge through the development of samadhi, concentration, and samadhi develops when the mindfulness gets momentum. So need yogis should observe just the presently arising object with ardent effort. And when you observe the presently arising object with ardent effort, mindfulness develops, then concentration, then the wisdom. And when wisdom develops, you come to see the things as they truly are, the faultless knowing. So may all the yogis, by observing the presently arising object continuously, precisely, consistently, may you able to develop mindfulness concentration. Through the development of mindfulness concentration, may you be able to develop wisdom, and by development of wisdom, may you able to discern the individual characteristics, then conditional characteristics, and then common characteristics. By experiencing the common characteristics, may you all be able to develop knowledge into impermanence, unsatisfactoriness, and selflessness.